Did you know data recently surpassed oil as the most valuable resource in the world today? That's pretty crazy. And there's a lot of data out there. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, and knowing what to do and making sense of all that information can be hard. What we do is we give organizations who are doing good in the world access to that data and that information, and then we analyze it for them to help them know what to do so that they can have the confidence of knowing they're making the best decision. I'm Andrew Esparza. I'm the founder of Kingdom Analytics, and I'd love to tell you a little more about what we do and how it works. So a little bit about Kingdom Analytics. Like I was saying, really what we do is we take data, whether that be demographic data, geographic data, psychographic data, we pull that and we help organizations use that and understand that to really either reach their communities, understand who they are and who either their congregation is, their customers, donors, student families, all kinds of things. And there's lots of different applications. But really, the key is to knowing, based on this information, what's the best next decision I can make, whether that's with people or place. So we've had the opportunity to work with organizations all over the country, both commercial, church, nonprofits, schools, a lot of great organizations, and they're all fun, all different, and all doing some really great things. Whether that be with nonprofits and helping understand who their donors are, and to reach more donors to further their mission. We do a lot of work with private schools and Christian schools and understanding, hey, how can we better reach more families in our community and give them quality education? Churches, understanding, okay, who are we as a church? And then looking into our community, how can we serve our community, and how can we reach more of our community and grow our church? And in commercial, there's tons of different great organizations who are doing some awesome things as well. We've been blessed to have a strong board with a lot of great leaders doing some cool things with people from everything from NASA to Carnival Cruises, all over the place. So a lot of smart people behind the scenes. And really what we're trying to do is take an industry that's known for kind of being bland and boring and to tell the story behind it. So how this works is when we do these projects, we get back lots of data, and we want to make sure that data is acted on. There's tons of data out there, and our whole goal is making sure that it's being acted on and told in a way that's easy to understand and is fun. So how that works is we put together these presentations that tell this story in a visual and actionable way. So typically, I'll walk through a couple examples here, and these are just going to be samples. Could be from nonprofits, from churches, all different things, just so you can get a feel of a little bit of how this works and how it can be applied to perhaps your organization. So the first thing we'll do is we'll plot out an organization's members, customers, congregation, whatever it is. So you can see here as an example of an organization that had investors they wanted to study. So you can see they're plotted out all across the United States. And what that helps us do is first understand geography. Where are these people? Where are they located? Where are some hubs we can focus on? And the next thing we do, and you'll see this a little later here, is we can then dive in a little deeper, and we can plot these people. Where you see here now is an example of a church, and all these dots you see represented are households that are going to that church. So what we do on our end is once we plot these, you can get a great lot of geographic information, which is awesome there, but we can actually analyze every single one of those houses. And it might sound a little scary, but with just a household address, you can pull thousands and thousands of data points. And like I said, our goal is to use this information for good and for organizations who are doing good. So what this example kind of shows is really understanding who you are and who is in your community. You'll see there's an outline there. And that represents a 20-minute drive time, and typically we define that as a community. Now, every church, every business is going to be a little different on what that drive time looks like, but that helps us to now say, okay, we've understood who we are. Let's look at every single household in our community and see how we compare. So a little bit of background on where some of this data comes from. You can see we pull from dozens of different sources. And the reason we pull from all these different sources is we want the most accurate data possible, and we want to get at more than just demographics. It's great to know age, income, ethnicity, those kinds of things. That's important, and we'll look at that. But what we're really concerned with, especially as we try to tell this in a story that's actionable, is what we call psychographics. These people's behaviors, their beliefs, what they think, what they feel, how to communicate to them. That's what we're looking for, and that's why we use so many different sources. So what we get back on our end is thousands and thousands of data points and pages of information, and we can hand that over to you. And if you do projects with us, you actually do get access to all this raw data, and we'll give that to you. But what we want to do is actually analyze that data. And after working with hundreds of organizations across the country, we kind of know what to look for on what page and what it means, and can explain it so that you can then take action on that. So you'll get all the raw data for those who are into that kind of thing, but for normal people like us, it's not usually how you want to spend your day. So we'll analyze that and kind of pull out the key points of hey, here's something we might want to look at. Here's some low-hanging fruit. Here's some best next steps. So starting off, a few of the things we'll look at is income, and both for, in this case, it was donors, but also in the community. So this works with churches and understanding, okay, who's in our church and where are maybe some places we could serve, and then comparing that to the community. One of the fun things we always look at is what's the total income of our church or of our school or our nonprofit? What's the total income? And then what percent is per church, what percent of that is tithed or given? What we found in our research and working with hundreds of churches is typically the operating budget from tithes and gifts is usually around 2.5% of the church or the congregation's total income. And that's pretty interesting. And we'll work with some churches. Sometimes it's lower, sometimes it's higher. We've worked with several churches who've gone up to that 8, 9, 10%, and they can be really happy about that. But something I always have to warn them is that's awesome that you're up there, but what's that saying is you may not be reaching new people in your church. If we're reaching new people and we're a growing church, there's apt to be some individuals who haven't really taken that next step in their faith and in tithing, and sometimes a 5% gift can be healthy. So that's something we'll look at and we'll analyze. Ethnicity, we'll compare that from your organization to the community you're in or looking at going to. Same thing with age. We'll look at household growth in your community specifically, or a community you're looking to perhaps move to, both currently and then 5 and 10 years into the future. But really, when it comes down to it, this is going to kind of be the meat and potatoes, and that's the concept of mosaics. So if you haven't heard of mosaics, really what Mosaic is, or the Mosaic system is a system developed somewhat behind closed doors by the accredited agencies. And what they've done essentially is grouped every single American household into one of 71 different Mosaic types or people groups. And that's based off of a lot of information here, your age, your income, how you're spending your money, your habits, behavior, all these different things kind of go into essentially kind of putting you into a box. Now, we all know that we're individuals, and that said, if I know that you are this Mosaic, X Mosaic, I'm going to know you have 85% chance or so likelihood of feeling this way about these things, communicating these ways, have these types of behaviors. And we can really use that for good. So what we've done, what some other organizations have done, is overlaid religious data, marketing data, all these different things on top of those mosaics, so that let's say, for example, if you're a church, we know the top 3 mosaics in your church. We know what these people are looking for in church leadership and a pastor. Do they want their hand shaken when they come in the door? What times a week are they going to be available for small groups, and what are they going to be interested in? But also important information like what are their outreach opportunities, both for themselves and how are they equipped to serve others and in the community. For nonprofits, understanding your donors and what they're apt and passionate about giving towards. And then a lot of the credit agency data of the marketing side of things is, okay, now that we have all this background information, we can apply that onto, okay, from some of the information that just comes with the baseline mosaic of how to market to these people. Okay, we know they're direct mail receptive or digitally receptive, and we have all this background information to start create messaging to really invite them into something that's going to be good for them. So that's a little bit about how mosaics work, and I want to go a little deeper just so you have an understanding. So this map you see here is a map of Chicago through the lens of Mosaic. And the reason I use Chicago is some would say it's somewhat of a gentrified city, but really what it means is there's a lot of different types of people living in a similar space. So if you're a business in Chicago, or you're a church in Chicago and you're trying to reach your community, your strategy is going to be totally different, in this case, across the street from each other. So knowing and understanding who is in your community and the mosaics in your community is going to be very important. This is going to be different all across the country. So your strategy of reaching these people is going to vary, and it's important to know who is in your community, how to reach them, but also who you're currently reaching now, and kind of who your target market is, or who you want to reach that's maybe not being reached. So how this works is we kind of created these profiles. We don't come up with the names, but we've created these profiles and pictures that go behind them to tell you a little bit about who these people are. So typically what we'll do is we'll say, hey, we'll look at all the mosaics, but we'll say, hey, we'll highlight maybe the top 3 in your organization, and then the top 3 in your community, and say, okay, hey, are we really representing our community, or who are we overrepresented in, and is that an opportunity for us as a target market, or do we need to maybe take some steps to really focus on maybe this mosaic in our community that we're not reaching for some reason. So we'll look at all that, and we'll look at where these people fall as far as income and age go, and some basically just background information of who these people are. Now there's pages and pages of information, and we'll go over that with you in our consultations, but it's important just to kind of get a feel for who these people are. One of the things we've started doing a lot more, typically just did it for nonprofits, but we started doing it for almost everybody now, is kind of these donor profiles on these mosaics. So understanding, okay, for this particular mosaic, their current income is $250,000. They have discretionary spending of over $32,000. And their preferred outreach, or what they're likely to give to and what they're passionate about, is going to be education and the arts. But what's important to understand is when we look at financial profiles, so these people, they gather a lot of information before they make any decisions. They can be swayed by powerful images. Now, none of this is to try to trick anybody. This is just saying, hey, how can we best present what we're doing to these people so that they best understand it? But what's important to understand about this is there's another mosaic almost identical to this mosaic in looks. Same age, same ethnicity, same income. If you saw both of them on the street, you wouldn't be able to tell which is which. But the way they perceive and they give is totally different. So this group, very swayed about powerful images. They want to hear about maybe if you're, let's say, your nonprofit digging wells in Africa. They want to hear from the mom who was affected by this and able to send her kids to school and how it's changed their life and their family tree, and that's going to really resonate with them. This other group that's almost identical to them, I wouldn't say they could care less, that's important to them, but they're very fact-driven. They want, okay, I'm about to write a $50,000 check. How many wells are going to get built? How many people are going to get saved? What's the impact going to be? Give me the ROI, the facts. And understanding who you're talking to is going to totally change and impact what you're saying and how you're communicating what you're doing to these people, because you may think you're talking to one group when really they're looking at this saying, hey, I just want the facts, or that's a lot of facts. That seems kind of cold. Where's the story? Where's the meaning behind that? So understanding who's in your organization and who you're trying to reach is important. So we'll look at that. We'll look at different contribution, things like that for customers, their buying styles and what they look for there. And then also importantly, how to communicate to these people. So what you see here is basically it's a sample mosaic, and you see these scores. So a score of 100 basically says they are average receptive as any American. That's how the average American is receptive to. So when we see direct mail, they have a score of 304. That's essentially saying they're 3 times more likely to be responsive to direct mail. Now, it's not always going to be direct mail. It could be Facebook ads, it could be digital, things like that. It's going to vary based on which mosaics you have. So it's important to understand that. And then what we do is we look at messaging. Okay, based on that, what do we say? How do we say it? And how can we best communicate that to these people? So one of the things we offer is we call it the target address list acquisition. And really what this is say you had a group, let's say in your church, that you're trying to reach, and they're maybe the number one mosaic in your church or in your community, and we know that they are direct mail receptive, so you want to do a direct mail campaign. What we can do is we can go out and purchase the addresses in your community in that 20-minute drive or whatever it is of all the people who we know are either just like the people you're trying to reach or just like the people in your church who are already receptive to what you're doing. And we know they're receptive to direct mail, and we can pull those addresses so that now you can send the right messaging to the right household at the right time. And what we call those is we call them smart cards, and we've done this a lot for Christian schools and helping reach parents and new families in the community, and I've seen some great results. But it's not always going to be direct mail. We'll look at so let's say they're digitally receptive. We'll look at, okay, where are they online? How much time's being spent online in these sites? So where are we going to get our best return? And there's some ways based on that. We now know where these people are geographically, and we can create these geo-fenced areas in your community where those ads are just showing in those areas, so they're going to the right people and not really having wasted impressions in the wrong areas. So we'll do that, and there's some fun ways we do that, and opportunity scans, and can help with social media and all that stuff. The last couple sections are really helpful. A lot of times we use this for churches, but there's a lot of other applications depending on what kind of organizations you are. And first one we call is Mosaic Commentary, and that's taking, maybe it's the top mosaic in your church or top mosaic in your community, and really doing a deep dive on who these people are. What are they looking for from a pastor, in a hospitality perspective? What are they looking for? All the way down to what kind of coffee do they like? Worship, education, small group outreach, property technology, stewardship, and financial management. We kind of talked about some of these things, but this will go very in depth and provide really detailed essentially playbook or a cheat sheet. A lot of the pastors we work with use this as kind of when they're trying to make a decision between one thing or the other, they can refer back to this and say, okay, that's right. Our mission for the next 5 years is we're trying to reach this group in our community. Based on that, here's the decision we should make in regards to maybe it's expanding parking lot spaces to refurbishing a bathroom or something like that. So you can really kind of essentially get the answers to your questions with some of that. And another thing we'll look at a lot with our churches and nonprofits are this thing called the community consensus. And what this does is it really goes in and just looks at the community you're in, and it dives deep into understanding, okay, what are the life concerns of the people in our community? Based on that, if you're a church, this is a great way to pull some sermon ideas and material. We've heard it many times where people have done this and have heard from people in the congregation saying like, wow, are you reading my diary, or how did you know that this was something I was struggling with, and this was really helpful. So that's something there. We'll also look at what are some of the program and ministry preferences of people in this community that you can either offer as a church or nonprofit to assist with some of this. And then for our churches, understanding what are these people's views of the church, and how can we best communicate the truth of who the church is, or who the church is supposed to be, and understanding where these people are coming from and what they kind of feel about the church and reasons they may or may not participate in the church. So we'll look at all that and include some recommendations. So all this to say, this is kind of a quick summary of a little bit about what we do with different organizations around the country. If you have questions, I'm always happy to answer those. I'm going to put my contact information up here on the screen. Feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email, whatever works best. We're doing free consultations for a little while here, where we're happy we can jump on a video call like this or on the phone, help walk through some of the things you're thinking about, and come up with some strategies for you. But yeah, thank you again for making it through this whole video, and we look forward to talking to you more, hopefully answering some of your questions, and hopefully get to serve your organization and your community. So thanks again, and we'll see you.